Awesome. All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Matt Cretzman here with the Pro-Forma Playbook. And I'm super excited for the upcoming pitch competition that we have. If you're a founder and you're looking to get funded and you want to showcase your startup, make sure that you fill out the form, submit the application, and we'll make sure that you get, we're going to take a look at that and see if you qualify for the pitch competition. And it's going to be a whole lot of fun. And if you're a judge, if you're not a judge and you'd like to be a judge, you're passionate about startups, then I'd encourage you to reach out to us here as well, because we'd love to get you involved. But enough about that. I'm here with Cameron. Cameron, how are you doing today, man?
Doing great. Never better.
Excellent. Excellent. I love that. And we're excited for your involvement that you're going to have in the pitch competition again this year. And remind me, were you in the last one as well?
I was indeed, yes.
Excellent. All right, you're a glutton for punishment, coming back for round number 2, huh? What about?
It was fun. I learned a lot. The companies were great. It was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. What were some of the top companies, if you remember any?
Well, I probably shouldn't say. I just remember thinking like, wow, these companies are legit. They're really far along. These are not really startups. They are moving and grooving and have revenue and are tackling some really big problems. And I was just very impressed. Normally when you judge competitions like this, you're never sure what you're going to get. But man, these were all really, really solid companies.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. What about talk to us first of all, Cameron? Give us an overview of your little bit about your journey in startups and what you're building right now. What your kind of your journey has been like.
Sure. So I've been building startup communities for over 20 years now from a bunch of different perspectives. But my role here in Fort Worth has really been to build the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Fort Worth and the surrounding areas. Do that through programs, events. I host a podcast called Innovate Fort Worth, where we highlight local innovators and entrepreneurs. Yep. And then I also spend a lot of time thinking about how we can make it easier for people to start businesses, making it cheaper for people to start businesses, and mowing down any obstacles that they may have in their way, both from a city and a regulatory perspective, or from a access to capital perspective, or a access to talent perspective. So really just try to help entrepreneurs in any way I can.
Yeah. Well, what are you most excited about right now as it relates to startups, and specifically here in DFW? Like what are some positives? What are you seeing? What's something exciting that's happening?
I'm gearing up for the Techstars Fort Worth Demo Day on December 11th. They're a little over halfway through the cohort, and there are 11 companies in this cohort, literally from all over the world, that are tackling some of the biggest challenges in physical healthcare. And I'm very excited to see what they're going to be able to do on Demo Day. Literally people working on genomics in Africa, and what that's going to unlock for patient populations around the world. We also have the former head of data science at Google, who's building a company to help radiologists, and then a bunch of different companies in between. Everybody from a guy who wants you to wash your eyelids every day to help dry eye, because we all look at our phones too much, to a guy developing a device where you can literally spit in a cup and it'll diagnose your disease.
Wow, that is wild. I gotta say, that's probably my favorite thing about being in the startup community, is you just see people that have the wildest ideas, and it's always cool when those wild ideas actually, like you said, solve real problems. So I guess during the selection process and criteria, when you're looking at startups, like what are some things that you consistently look at when evaluating startups?
Yeah, I try to look at, the size of the problem that they're solving. There's plenty of problems to be solved out there, but is the problem really big enough to warrant an investment, or to warrant capital to attack it in a certain kind of way that would involve either venture funding or some kind of early stage capital? I'm also looking at, is the way that they're attacking the problem a unique and novel thing, right? This is not necessarily, we got a bunch of widgets out there that are all doing the exact same thing. That's not really interesting. It's when you attack the problem from a different way. It's risky. It may not work, but at least you're thinking about it from a different perspective. And I just love seeing the ways that different entrepreneurs and innovators tackle problems differently. Yeah.
Yeah. What are the best things that come from competitions like this, and putting founders on a stage and having them pitch? What are some of the best takeaways?
Well, I love the pitch, because you just get to see years and years worth of work into several just minutes, right? And I always learn something. Every time I see a pitch, I learn something, right? It's an issue I don't know about. It's a solution I don't know about. It's a problem I don't know about. And I always leave just a little bit smarter. And I've probably seen over 1,000 pitches in my life just from the work that I've been doing over the last few years. And I can tell you some great pitches I've seen. I can tell you some terrible pitches that I've seen, but I've learned something from every single one of them. And I love the opportunity in a pitch competition to be able to give those entrepreneurs some real and actionable feedback. Hey, you talk too fast, or I didn't understand slide 7, or why are you even doing this? This is crazy. And then but then also try to be really encouraging with it as well. That's not, I don't say those comments to beat them down. I want them to keep going because I firmly believe that entrepreneurs are the ones that are going to solve the problems of the future. It's not the government. It's not universities. It's not, the Chinese or whoever it may be. It is the entrepreneurs that are going to solve these problems that can really help change our world, make people feel better, cure diseases, bring new energy to market, and all the things that we need to solve.
Yeah. And I definitely understand, what you're saying. Sometimes you do have to, you got to give as early on as possible, you got to give that candid feedback, right? Like you have to be willing to say the hard things. Otherwise, because there's nothing worse than spending years and years and lots of capital and energy and resources on a bad idea. So sometimes you do have to be a little, forthright with people, but it kind of makes me think of Shark Tank, and you've got different personalities that are on there. Some are a little bit softer, and then you got Mr. Wonderful, who's just going to tell it to you like it is. And funny question, if you were to relate yourself, I guess maybe to somebody on Shark Tank, what would you say like your personality or approach is probably more typified?
Well, they'd probably never let me on Shark Tank because I tend to like everybody. I could not be Mr. Wonderful. I'm not a Mark Cuban type either. I'm probably more like a Barbara, where I might give you some constructive criticism, but I'm going to wrap it in a really nice wrapper and make it a lot more easier for you to swallow. I do have the gift of diplomacy, and so I'm able to usually tell people bad things and still have a smile on my face and still have a smile on their face. So I'm probably more the Barbara of anybody else.
Yeah, that's good. Everybody needs a barber in their life, especially, founders, to kind of soften the blow. In all the pitches that you've seen, and for, founders that are watching this and, we're building towards the pitch competition itself, what could some advice be that you would say to them when thinking about that moment when they're on stage or preparing for the pitch?
Yeah, I work with a lot. I do a lot in biotech, and we see so many super smart founders that know everything there is to know about their molecule or their disease or their solution, but you have to dumb it down to where I can understand it. You got to come up with some sort of an analogy that helps me understand it. And I always say, if I can understand it, I'm not a science guy, I'm not a PhD, I don't have that kind of background. But if I can understand it, then in general, you've done your job. The other thing I would say too is a lot of people will go all the way through a pitch. They'll go all the way through defining the problem. They'll have a great presentation, and they forget to tell us how they make money. And that's such a critical part of, it's such an easy part, but it's also such a critical part of every pitch. So don't forget to tell us how you're going to make money, even if you don't know how it's all fleshed out yet. You got to say it's a subscription model, or I think it's a subscription model, but if that doesn't work, I'm going to do this. And so be sure you dumb it down and be sure that anybody can understand what your problem is and what your solution is. And then be sure to tell us how you're going to make money with your company or in your company.
Yeah. Good feedback. And are you a fan of bootstrapping, or are you a fan of raising early and growing fast?
Bootstrap it as long as you can. It depends on what kind of company you're building, of course, but when you're, either a solo founder, you're a founding team, and you got to do the sales, the marketing, the product development, when you got to do it all, you're going to learn so much about your company that's just really irreplaceable over time. So to raise venture early and then bring in a bunch of people who aren't the founder, who aren't the expert, there's value in that, sure, and certainly no fault to any company who chooses that path. But be sure you're ready to raise venture. Be sure you're ready to raise that outside capital when you are. And I think sometimes that period where before you've raised capital can be really transformative for your company. So it's exhausting, it's hard, it's not easy, but really, suck the marrow out of that experience, learn as much as you can, and I think that'll make you more successful in the long run.
Yeah. That's definitely good advice, because when you take capital, you're not just taking money. You're taking what comes with the money and the people who gave the money and all the expectations and stuff like that as well. So there's pros and cons to either side, but I definitely align with your perspective. And we're seeing, you're in it every day. Me as a marketer, also seeing a lot of it, but the buzzword of AI, right? Everybody's thinking about AI. How should founders be thinking about, startups with AI? Should everybody have an AI component in their startup, or do you think we've reached a point of saturation? What are some things that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think if you're not thinking about AI, you're not doing it right. What that means for your individual company, how you're going to use it, I think that's all still to be determined. But you can't ignore it. And I think that's the number one thing is you've got to at least be thinking about it and find ways to embrace it. I've seen a lot of different people pitching ideas for how to use it, or they build their entire company around it. Maybe that's right, maybe that's not. I don't think we really know some of those answers yet, but I just think you have to at least consider it and have some sort of a plan, even if it's just on the back of the napkin or it's implementing in the near future. And be comfortable with it. Try to understand it, right? Like our kids, I have 3 kids. They are going to grow up in a world where AI always existed and was a thing. And that can be trouble for a school teacher who's trying to figure out if they just wrote their paper using ChatGPT, or if they're using it to solve a real world problem and build a startup around. And both of those are just realities of the world. It's not necessarily right or wrong. It's just that's where we are as a society, as a people, and you can't ignore it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly. Embrace it. It's a tool. It's a resource that can have incredibly effective, power in turbocharging efficiency and results and insights. And geez, now that we have it, like very quickly, I find myself saying, I can't imagine not having this technology now. It's just made my life so much easier and better. It's pretty exciting. So I'm sure the startup, founders and everything that we're going to see in the pitch competition, there's going to be plenty of AI ones. But turning our sights to the collaboration with Pro-Forma, I guess what makes you most excited, and when did your relationship first kind of kick off with Pro-Forma?
Yeah, I got to know Pro-Forma when I met the guys at Eagle Venture Lab, and they were talking about this great tool that they had built and how cool it was. And I got to experience it for myself. And frankly, from a judging perspective, it made my job a lot easier. Just watching the way that it thought about the company, and it kind of pulled all this data and information together. It gave me a great sense of how to judge the competition. As far as Pro-Forma goes, I think it's a great tool. It's probably not for every company, but it's for a whole lot of companies. Yep. And what we see a lot is that founders are really good at whatever it is they're really good at. It's usually the technical aspect. They're the builder, they wrote the software, they're the biotech person, but they're probably not the finance guy. They're probably not the business person. They may or may not have those kind of CEO qualities. And a tool like Pro-Forma can absolutely help you plan for those sort of things and fill in some of the gaps that you don't have either on your founding team or as a solo entrepreneur. And so I think it's a really valuable tool for just about any kind of entrepreneur and just about any kind of business.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you for that feedback. And last thing I'm going to ask with the Innovate Fort Worth podcast, what's new and exciting? What does 2025 look like for you and the things that you're working on, and with Innovate Fort Worth?
Well, let me start with 2024. We just finished featuring all 11 Techstars companies. And coming up in November, we have Global Entrepreneurship Week. And so we're going to have 5 episodes in 5 days that are all what we call big picture episodes. So even though it's a locally focused podcast, we brought experts from national experts in to tell us what they're working on, what they're seeing at the national level or in their communities, and what that means for Fort Worth, what that means for our local community. And then in 2025, it's just going to be more of the same. We'll have a big picture episode about every quarter, and then everybody else will just be local entrepreneurs and innovators who are doing amazing things from right here in Fort Worth, most of which nobody even knows about. And that's why we do the podcast, is to try to highlight.
Yeah, excellent, great. Where should people stay in touch or subscribe? Where's the podcast?
Anywhere you get your podcast, just search Innovate Fort Worth. It's really easy to find. And of course, you can find me probably on LinkedIn is the best place to find me. Just look up Cameron Cushman and you should find me. Yeah, excellent, great. Well, Cameron, thanks so much for your time. And for those of you who are watching this, wherever you're watching this, most of you are going to be watching this on LinkedIn. But so Pro-Forma is sponsoring this pitch competition. There's a $50,000 prize. Reach out to them for details. 50,000 is not a number that you can just gloss over. So they're making an investment, and they're looking for anybody who's got the next big problem that they're solving through technology or through innovation. And so if that's you, go ahead and submit your application. If you're looking to be a judge, we could certainly use the help.
reach out to the Pro-Forma team and they'll be sure to get you in the right direction. But Pro-Forma is a platform. It's designed to empower entrepreneurs by giving tools and resources to refine your vision, validate assumptions, and build investor-ready plans. Cameron, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'm going to see you there at the pitch competition. Although it is virtual, I'm sure our paths will cross. And those of you who are watching, thanks so much for tuning in. Share this, like it, comment below, and we're going to have a good old time coming up here in a few weeks for the pitch competition.